Vince Keller didn't even look at me when he slid the envelope across the metal desk. Just a quick glance at the screen, some numbers mumbled under his breath, and then, "It's nothing personal, Julian. Just part of the restructuring." That word, restructuring, felt like a steel-toed kick to the chest. I didn't say anything at first. I just looked at the envelope, then at Vince. His suit was too sharp for this place. He didn't have grease under his nails or permanent calluses on his hands. He'd never busted his knuckles on a seized bolt in sub-zero weather. He didn't know this garage. And he didn't know me. After 22 years, I said quietly, "You couldn't even look me in the eye?" Vince gave a quick, polite shrug like he was doing me a favor. "You've got your severance. Your record's solid. There'll be opportunities out there." I let out a slow breath and looked past him out the narrow garage office window. A car, a brand new Tantalus X9, rolled out of Bay 4, gleaming under the fluorescence. I had personally signed off on that vehicle yesterday. Calibrated the brake sensor issue myself. I was the reason that car wouldn't kill someone on the Dan Ryan Expressway. But here I was, being told I was no longer needed. I stood up slowly and reached for my coveralls. Didn't rush. Didn't say anything. Just changed out of my work uniform and into my street clothes, one item at a time. Button-down flannel. Worn jeans. Steel-toe boots I'd had for 7 years. I folded my coveralls neatly, laid them on the bench, and turned toward the hallway. The walk from the locker room to the exit took me past the wall of framed photos, the one I'd personally curated. Apprentices I'd trained. Awards for safety excellence. A group photo from the time we rebuilt a vintage Voltaire Lancer for a children's hospital charity. No one said anything as I passed. I wasn't even sure anyone had been told yet, but I could feel the silence. It hung around me like exhaust fumes. At the exit, I paused. There used to be a plaque by the door with my name on it. Julian Walker, Lead Master Technician. It had been replaced with a printed-out company slogan on glossy stock. Efficiency over ego. I stepped outside, the cold Chicago wind slicing through me before the door even shut behind me. I didn't look back. That garage, my garage, was no longer mine. And Vince Keller? He would find out soon enough what happened when you fired the man who trained the whole damn team. When you tossed aside the only person who still gave a damn whether the steering column torque matched the spec down to the last Newton meter. But for now, I walked to my car. Started the engine. Put both hands on the wheel like I was still in control of something. Because even though they threw me out like scrap, they didn't know I was still the blueprint. They just lost the guy who kept the place running. The next morning, I woke up like I always did, before dawn, sore from years under hoods and behind lifts. Except there was nowhere to go now. No shop. No smell of coolant in the air. No checklist on the bench with my initials next to half a dozen sign-offs. I made coffee, stared out the window, and tried to believe this was just a long weekend. Around 10, my phone buzzed. "Julian, you around?" It was Malik, used to be my apprentice, now a full tech. Smart kid. Good hands. Better heart. Yeah, I texted back. Home. 10 minutes later, he was on my porch, holding a brown paper bag with a pair of breakfast sandwiches and that look in his eyes, the one people get when something ain't sitting right. We didn't talk right away. Just ate on the porch in the cold, steam rising from the food. Then he said, "You heard what Keller's saying now? That we're too slow. That we need to start skipping secondary diagnostics unless the customer specifically requests it." I didn't respond. I already knew what that meant. He said we're bleeding time. Wants us in and out in under 45 per service, no matter the model. That was insane. Some of these cars, European hybrids with dual systems, needed at least an hour just for baseline checks. Anything less was gambling with someone's life. Then came another knock. Rachel Hines, toolbox queen since she was 19, showed up with 2 more guys, Diego and Benny. One by one, more of them arrived like I was still their shift lead. Even though I wasn't. They all had the same look, pissed, confused, rattled. But mostly loyal. Not to the company. To me. "Julian," Rachel said, "this place ain't the same without you. You're the one who taught us to give a damn." Now Keller's got Benny cutting brake bleeds short and signing off with pre-filled forms. I felt something twist inside me. I told him no, Benny added. Told him we don't do that. He said, "Well, maybe you'll end up like Walker." That hit harder than I thought it would. My name being used like a warning label. Malik looked at me. "We're thinking of walking out. Or at least calling in sick tomorrow." I raised a hand. "No, not like this. You walk now, they'll just replace you. No one will listen to a bunch of angry mechanics." "So what then?" Rachel asked. "We just let it slide?" I leaned forward. "You stay sharp. Document everything. You start noticing real shortcuts, safety oversights, parts being skipped. Write it down. Dates, times, names. They nodded slowly, listening. Before they left, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Voicemail. I hit play. Julian, it's Vincent Harland. The voice was deep, old school. Heard what happened. Absolute disgrace. Listen, I want to talk. Renswick Motors needs someone like you. I've got an idea. My heart kicked up. Vincent Harland, the man who built that garage from nothing before corporate swallowed it whole. He was out now, retired, but respected like a legend. I didn't respond. Not yet. I looked at the faces around me, young techs who still believed in doing things right. Maybe it wasn't over. Not for me. Not for any of us. But I wasn't ready to chase anything yet. The wound was still too fresh. A few days later, I stopped by the garage. Not for work. Just to return a torque wrench someone had left at my place last month. Or at least that's what I told myself. I parked across the street and watched for a moment. The building looked the same, but something felt different. No music from the shop radio. No laughter echoing off the concrete. Just movement, fast and stiff like a place holding its breath. Inside, I nodded at the receptionist, who didn't even look up. I walked down the hall past the break room, ignoring the stares from the front office guys in their iron shirts. The moment I stepped into the garage, for techs peeled off from their bays and made a beeline toward me. Julian, Malik said, pulling off his gloves. You gotta see this. He led me toward Bay 6. Rachel was already there with Benny, crouched near a diagnostics tablet plugged into a Savas V8. She tapped the screen and pointed. Engine misfire codes. Ignition timing off. This thing should have been red flagged. But Keller told us to push it through, Benny added. Said if it's still driving, it's not our concern. I stared at the readout, then back at them. Did anyone log this? Rachel held up a clipboard. We started writing everything down like you said. But it's getting worse. Another voice joined in. Management's overriding inspection flags, Diego said. And Keller? He's walking the floor now, pushing people to skip manual checks. Calls it smart efficiency. The others gathered around. There must have been at least a dozen now, all of them standing in the middle of the shop like it was a war room. You think they'll listen if we go to HR? Rachel asked. They won't, I said. HR reports to Keller. Always has. You'll be labeled troublemakers. So what do we do? I looked around at the grease-streaked faces, the cut knuckles, the smart, capable hands that had built this place's reputation. You don't stop working, I said. You just stop ignoring things. I motioned to the car. If the inspection's wrong, you flag it. If management overrides it, you log it. And if they come after you, you point to the union contract. Article 15. No retaliation for safety-based refusals. Rachel cracked a small smile. You really remember the clauses? Damn right I do, I said. I wrote half of them with Harland. And then, like on cue, the doors slammed open. Vince Keller stepped into the garage, arms folded, that cheap leather briefcase tucked under one arm. His voice carried like he thought it mattered more than the truth. Back to work, everyone. This isn't a debate. We've got metrics to hit. Nobody moved. He looked at me. You don't work here anymore, Walker. You're trespassing. I'm just returning a tool, I said, and watching a team refuse to compromise safety for quotas. You're stirring them up. No, they're stirring themselves up. Keller stepped forward, but Rachel was faster. Per union rules, we're allowed to decline unsafe directives. Malik added, and we're not servicing cars until flagged safety issues are resolved. Article 15. Silence. Then Keller's eyes narrowed. You want to play games? No games, I said. Just rules. The ones your software keeps ignoring. That's when I saw it, the smallest flicker of panic behind his smug grin. He didn't realize it yet, but the rebellion had already begun. And this time it was quiet, careful, and completely by the book. A week after the standoff in the garage, I got a call from Rachel. Julian, can you come by tonight? After hours. There's something you need to see. She sounded serious. I didn't ask questions. That night, the shop looked like a ghost town. All the lifts were down. The floor was swept. Even the vending machines hummed quieter. Rachel was waiting near Bay 3 with a laptop open and a flash drive plugged in. Her hair was pulled back tight, face tense like she hadn't slept much. Diego sat beside her, scrolling through a separate monitor. "Okay," she said. "You remember that Savas V8 from last week? The one with the misfire codes?" "Yeah. Well, according to this," she tapped the screen, "it passed final inspection. Green across the board. Signed off by you." My stomach turned. "What? I know. That's the thing." She clicked open a log entry. "Here's your badge number. Date stamped. Signature." I leaned closer. "Except I hadn't worked here that day. Someone forged my clearance." Rachel nodded. "And not just yours. Malik's, Benny's, a few others. It's all tied to the new service software Keller introduced." Diego leaned forward. "We pulled archived reports from 3 weeks ago. Same cars, different inspection status. The old logs flagged major issues. The new versions? Clean. Edited. You're saying they scrubbed the inspection data?" "Digitally manipulated," Rachel confirmed. "The system auto-synced with the Department of Transportation compliance upload." I sat back, heart thudding. That means cars with faulty brakes, timing failures, or electric charging malfunctions are out on the road right now. Fully certified. No flags. Because someone changed the reports. Rachel handed me a small flash drive. Everything we've found so far. Logs, timestamps, copies of the original inspections next to the forged ones. I stared at it. "This goes beyond cutting corners," I said quietly. "This is fraud. Federal level." Diego nodded. "We talked to the union legal team. They want a full report. Said they'll assign counsel to all of us if we move forward." "And if we don't?" I asked, already knowing. "Then nothing changes. Keller keeps faking reports. Corporate keeps ignoring us. And one of those cars kills somebody." Rachel's voice broke the silence. "Julian, this is what they fired you for. Not because of budgets. Because you actually gave a damn." I clenched the flash drive in my fist. I'd spent 2 decades teaching these people to care about torque specs, tire depth, fluid viscosity, because those little things save lives. And now some spreadsheet addict in a blazer was undoing it all to make quarterly numbers look pretty. I pulled out my phone and dialed. Vincent Harland, the old voice answered. "What's going on, son?" "We need to talk," I said. "And this time it's serious." Rachel copied the files again, tucked the backup into her boot, and locked the laptop. Her hands were shaking, but her eyes were clear. They didn't just mess with the wrong mechanic. They messed with an army trained by one. And we had proof. They came for me at 8:12 a.m. just as I pulled into the lot. 2 security guys in cheap suits I didn't recognize. No nod. No eye contact. One tapped on my window before I could cut the ignition. "Mr. Walker," the taller one said, "we need you to come with us." I already knew. They walked me straight through the lobby in full view of the staff, no attempt to keep things quiet. Vince Keller was waiting by the conference room door with that smug little smirk he wore when he thought he'd won. "This is your second unauthorized appearance, Julian," he said like he was reading off a traffic ticket. "You've disrupted operations and interfered with staff under contract. As of today, you are formally banned from all corporate properties." I looked past him, through the wide glass wall, and saw Rachel, Malik, Diego, and half the damn crew already gathered inside. "You can toss me out," I said. "But you might want to stick around. You're about to have a much bigger problem." He raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me." The door to the conference room opened. A man in a charcoal gray blazer stepped out, slim briefcase in one hand, union badge clipped to his belt. "Mr. Keller, my name is Tom Breckenridge, counsel representing Local 112A, he said smoothly. "We've been advised to hold a formal grievance hearing today." Keller scoffed. "Grievance for what?" "For widespread fraud," Rachel said, stepping forward. "For manipulating safety inspections, falsifying compliance data, and retaliating against whistleblowers." "Whistleblowers?" Keller barked. "This is nonsense. You've all been fed lies by a disgruntled ex-employee." That's when Rachel reached into her jacket and pulled out the flash drive. "You want lies," she said. "Let's talk about VIN 30419SK. You changed a critical brake failure to minor pad wear. That car cleared the lot 3 days ago. And we've got the original logs." Breckenridge slid a laptop across the table and connected the drive. Keller's face dropped. "You've been stealing company files." "No," Rachel replied calmly. "We've been preserving evidence of criminal negligence. The union rep clicked through the folders. 17 vehicle records with falsified inspection entries. 8 of them linked to your user ID, Mr. Keller. The rest came through a system login created under Darren Holtz. That name sound familiar? It did. Darren Holtz, the CEO's son. VP of Compliance, freshly minted. Freshly incompetent. As if summoned by the sound of his own name, Darren walked in, jaw set tight, suit sleeves too long like a boy playing dress-up. I don't know what this is about, but... Save it, Rachel said, slapping a printed log on the table. You were approving forged safety checklists through a shared account. Keller stepped in front of him. None of this will hold up. You're bluffing. That's when Benny, quiet, always watching Benny, said, we're invoking Article 32. Emergency work stoppage. Dead silence. No technician here is touching another vehicle, Malik added. Not until there's a full third-party audit and a federal investigator reviews that flash drive. You refuse to work? Keller hissed. We refuse to lie, Rachel shot back. Darren looked at his feet. Keller looked like he'd swallowed a bolt. I took one step forward. This isn't about me anymore. This is about every car that rolls off this floor with a family inside it. You forgot what this place was built on. We didn't. Keller's voice cracked. You're finished here. I smiled, slow and deliberate. So are you. Behind him, Breckenridge had already opened a video call with federal compliance. Keller didn't know it yet, but he was already halfway out the door. And for the first time in weeks, I felt steady again, like a man standing on solid ground. Because this wasn't revenge. This was accountability. The first thing I noticed when I pulled into the Renswick Motors campus in Detroit was how quiet it was, not the awkward, tense silence I'd left behind in Chicago, but the good kind. Focused. Clean. Even the air smelled different, like fresh paint and coffee, not burned coolant and worn-out tension. Marlon Trent met me out front. He was nothing like Keller. Where Keller wore overpriced suits to impress, Marlon wore a plain gray work shirt with his name stitched above the pocket. The creases in his jeans looked permanent. He didn't care about boardroom politics, he cared about whether your torque specs held. Julian Walker, he said, shaking my hand with a grip like he meant it. The man who built a garage full of honest mechanics in the middle of a corporate wildfire. We've been waiting for you. I followed him inside. Everything at Renswick was new but grounded, digital check-in stations at every bay, climate-controlled tool rooms, noise-canceling panels in the ceiling. But it wasn't flashy. It wasn't trying to impress. It was built to work. We toured the shop floor, then the training wing, a glass-walled space with 5 demo bays and tiered seating along one wall like a tiny lecture hall. This is where I want you, Marlon said. Lead our national training and service operations. Curriculum, standards, protocols, all yours. I blinked. Wait, all of it? He nodded. You'd build the system. From scratch. We're opening 5 new facilities next year. I want them running your playbook. Top to bottom. I paused. Why me? Marlon didn't even hesitate. Because I read the statements. Talked to the union. I know what you did not just last month, but for years. And I believe in doing the job right. We don't need marketers. We need people who give a damn. He slid a folder across the desk. Double your old salary. Full relocation coverage. Company truck. And your name on the inspection standard. I opened the folder but didn't look at the numbers. Can I bring my people? Marlon raised an eyebrow. How many? 20. Maybe more. He didn't flinch. You name them, we'll find them a bay. If they trained under you, they're gold in my book. I exhaled, sat back, and felt something uncoil in my chest. For the first time in months, I wasn't bracing for the next hit. I was being invited to build something. Something better. I signed the offer with a pen that felt a little too light in my hand, like maybe I hadn't earned something this good. But the truth was I had. Back in Chicago, things were crumbling fast. Keller was under formal investigation. Harland had gone public with the fraud findings. Local news ran with it, luxury auto giant faces federal probe. Then came the recalls, dozens of vehicles, all tied to doctored reports. Shareholders panicked. Stock tanked. And within 2 weeks, Darren Holtz quietly resigned. The garage that once felt like home was on fire. But I wasn't there to put it out anymore. I was in Detroit, building something new. On my terms. By early spring, I had my boots back on the shop floor, only this time it was mine. Or close enough. The new Renswick training facility opened just outside Dearborn, Michigan, in what used to be an old warehouse. They gutted it, rebuilt it from the frame up, and left the final touches to me. We called it the Bay. Nothing fancy. Just clean floors, sharp tools, good lighting, and systems that worked. And more importantly, the right people. They came in waves. First was Rachel. She rolled into town in an old pickup, toolbox in the back, flash drive still around her neck like a dog tag. "I don't trust many bosses," she said as she unpacked. "But you're not a boss. You're a builder." Then Malik. Then Benny. Then Diego. One by one, I helped them settle in, I helped their families move, connected them with housing, even threw together a weekend cookout behind the shop to make them feel like this place was already home. Over 24 followed in total. Not just mechanics, craftsmen. People who gave a damn. And not one of them asked about money first. They asked about integrity. About standards. About whether this place was going to be different. And it was. Because I made damn sure of it. No speed over safety talk. No executive quotas. No forged checklists. We built the curriculum from the ground up. Rachel designed the safety protocols, Malik led diagnostics training, Benny handled emissions and electric systems. It wasn't perfect, not yet. But every day it got better. And back in Chicago? That place was collapsing faster than anyone expected. Clients pulled out. 2 major dealerships severed ties when the fraud hit the headlines. Lawsuits stacked up. By May, Keller's name was blacklisted in every automotive network that mattered. And the CEO's son, poor, shiny-suited Darren Holtz, disappeared from the corporate site without a word. Rumor was they paid him to walk away. The best part? Not a single technician from my old garage stayed behind. Even the quiet ones, the ones who never spoke unless you asked, packed their bags and left. Most didn't come to Rensselaer, but they didn't stay in the wreckage either. They knew better now. They had learned to expect more. One afternoon, I was standing in the observation deck of the training center watching a session wrap up. A young woman, maybe 22, had just completed her final evaluation. She stepped back from the lift, sweat on her brow, smile creeping across her face. Rachel clapped her on the shoulder. "Nice work," she said. "Go ahead and log your cert." The girl walked to the console, typed in her initials, and just before she left, I caught her glancing toward Rachel, that same look Malik used to give me when he was still learning. It hit me right then. That was Rachel's apprentice. The torch was already being passed. Later that night, I found a folded copy of the Detroit Free Press sitting on my desk. Front page. From cast out to industry leader, how one mechanic changed the game. There was a picture of me and Marlon standing in front of the bay, smiling like we didn't just come out of a war. I sat there for a while, staring at that headline. Not because I needed the recognition, but because it proved something Keller never understood. You don't build a legacy with spreadsheets and threats. You build it with people. And mine were finally home. 6 months later, we opened our second Rensselaer service center. This one was in Akron, smaller than the bay, but sharp as hell. State-of-the-art lifts, electric diagnostics for next-gen hybrids, and a classroom wired with smart boards and 3D engine schematics. Clean. Quiet. Purposeful. The parking lot was packed. Ribbon-cutting ceremony, a small press crowd, and a bunch of local shops sending their rookies to get a look. I stood near the entrance, tie loose around my neck, sipping lukewarm coffee and wondering how the hell I'd gotten here. "Julian Walker," a voice said behind me. I turned. Vincent Harland. Still tall, still sharp, just a little grayer now. He walked like a man who had nothing left to prove because he didn't. He was the reason I ever became more than a grease monkey with good instincts. "You built a damn machine here," he said, nodding toward the new shop. "Tried to," I said. "Not perfect." "It's not supposed to be perfect," he replied. "It's supposed to be better." We talked for a while, mostly about the industry, how things were changing, how most companies were still trying to wring profit from corners. Then he pulled something from his coat pocket. A folded letterhead. "They want you back." I didn't even need to look at the paper. "The board?" I asked. He nodded. "Keller's out. Darren's name's poison. They're trying to salvage what's left. And they're offering you the moon." I smiled, more out of pity than interest. "I'm not going back, Vincent." He looked at me carefully. "You sure?" I turned toward the garage. Inside, Rachel was walking a young tech through an electric motor teardown. She was calm, focused, the kind of leader I always knew she could be. Malik stood behind them with a clipboard, checking torque specs. I watched as the young tech finished the demo. Rachel nodded. The kid grinned. "One more certified mechanic, trained the right way." "Yeah," I said. "I'm sure." Vincent smiled and slipped the paper back into his coat. "Didn't think you would. Just needed to hear you say it." I walked him back to the parking lot, shook his hand, and watched him drive off. Inside, the music had started back up. One of the local managers gave a speech I barely listened to. I stood near the window, half in and half out of the moment. And then I saw her. Rachel, walking out to the lot, keys in hand, headed toward the first car officially serviced at the new center. She pulled out slow, checked her mirrors, and gave a quick nod to the guys at the exit. I felt something shift in my chest, not pride exactly. More like peace. Because that car wasn't just a machine. It was a symbol. Of safety. Of trust. Of what we'd built. I didn't need to go back. I had already moved forward and taken my people with me. The world kept turning. But this time it turned our way.